Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadari. Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadari. Yasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yasodanand Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Astacharya Satyashri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai, Mathura Dhama Ki Jai, Navadvip Mayapur Dhama Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dhama Ki Jai, Gangamaya Jamuna Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnupadaya. Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nivasesa Sanivadi Paskatyate Satarane Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvadutam Parijana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Panchakalpatu Vishakti Pasundavya Vatapati Tanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So it is March 27th, 2023 in Hillsborough, and we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 44, Text 2. And this is the fight is started between Krishna and Chinura and Balaram and Mustika. Some verses describing the details of this fight. Hastabhyam hastayor badva. Pabhyam eva chapadayo. Vichakar shatur anyonyam. Prahasya vigi Prahasya vijigishaya. Hastabhyam hastayor badva. Padbyam eva chapadayo. Vichakar shatur anyonam. Prasaya vijigishaya. Hastabhyam hastayor badva. Padyam eva chapadayo. Vichakar shatur anyonyam. Prasaya vijigishaya. Astabhyam hastayor badva. Abhyam eva chapadayo. Vichakar shatur anyonyam. Prasaya vijigishaya. Astabhyam hastayor badva. Abhyam eva chapadayo. Vichakar shatur anyonyam. Prasaya vijigishaya. Hastabhyam, with their hands. Hastayoho, by the hands. Badva, seizing. Padbyam, with their legs. Eva, Evacha, also. Padayo, by the legs. Vichakar shatu. They, Krishna paired with Chanura and Balaram with Mustika. Dragged. So it's they dragged. They dragged, and who dragged was Krishna and Balaram were each dragging Chanura and Mustika. Anyonyam, each other. Prasaya, with force. Vijig ishaya, with desire for victory. BBT translation. Seizing each other's hands and locking legs with each other, the opponents struggled powerfully, eager for victory. All right, there's no BBT purport. And we're going to look at Sanatana Goswami's commentary, which is the same as Jiva Goswami's. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur does not have one. 4 verses, 2 to 5, describe how they played. Of course, it's kind of playing, but this was a fight to the death, so it wasn't exactly playing. The word cha indicates that they locked other limbs as well. The word eva should be supplied after hastabhyam as well. If there is inequality in confronting the opponent, the sporting aspect of wrestling will dwindle. This applies to later verses also. Both sides desired to win. Since Krishna was acting like an ordinary wrestler, he also desired victory, although he is the Lord, whose victory is always guaranteed. So that's the part I'm going to focus on today. That both sides desired to win, and since Krishna was acting like an ordinary wrestler, he also desired victory, although he is the Lord, whose victory is always guaranteed. Astabhyam hastayor badva, padbyam eva chapadayo, vichakar shatur anyonyam prasaya vijigishaya. Seizing each other's hands and locking legs with each other, the opponents struggled powerfully, eager for victory. So I'm going to look mostly at this vijigishaya, wanting victory. So I think all of us want victory, right? Anybody want to be a loser? No? Anybody want to be a loser? I mean, unless you're fat and you want to lose weight or something. Otherwise, nobody wants to be a loser. That's also a kind of victory, right? Giving up your smoking addiction or your extra weight or something like that. It's a kind of victory. We all want to win. Nobody says to their kids, grow up and be a loser. Right? We all want to win. So, and this is the essence of all stories. All stories, right? When you're in school, you learn this. If you want to write a good story, there has to be a conflict that you overcome. Like, there's never a story. Nobody would read a story or listen to a story, Sam got up, brushed his teeth, combed his hair, went to work, did his job, came home, ate some pasta, went to bed. Like, nobody would be interested in that. Romance stories, it's always, there's some conflict, right? Or you get the girl, then you lose the girl, then you get the girl again. There's something you have to overcome. And that's enjoyable, to win, to have victory over something. And if we think all of the rasas that inspire us, they all involve some kind of winning, some kind of conquering, some kind of victory. So I wanted to look at the different ways that we try to win. And I thought I'd look at this for Tamas, Rajas, Sattva, and then Bhakti. Because since we all want to win, we're going to be employing different means to try to win. Yes? So I thought we might want to look at, really do some introspection and what do I do to try to win? Am I working with Tamas, Rajas, or Sattva, or am I working in Bhakti? And how can I try to work more in Bhakti? So how do people try to win in Tamas? Any thoughts? How do people try to win in Tamas? Putting others down, okay. Huh? Abusing others, okay. Trying to get someone else to do some if it's out of laziness. Yes. So Tamas, you try to win in some lazy way. Yeah. Cheating. You're trying to win by cheating. You're talking about abuse, like gaslighting. I win by making you imagine that you're wrong even when you're right. Or nasty insults. You ever have people try to win arguments by ad hominem? Right? So that's Tamas. Or in general, cheating, stealing. And this is a popular genre of winning. The whole Robin Hood genre. I'm going to win by stealing. I'm going to conquer injustice in the world with cheating. I'm going to steal from the rich and give to the poor. And I'm going to, overthrow the government. I'm going to violate the rule of law in order to win. Is this also a popular genre of winning? Right? This is actually the Dhirodatta, the bad guy, the criminal who uses cheating and tricks in order to win somehow or other. Vengeance is very much in Tamas. Also, one can try to win in Tamas by getting a victim mentality. Somehow to make the other person wrong, like by insulting them, insulting their character, by gaslighting them, making them imagine that they're wrong when they're not, by doing a victim mentality. There's something called Darvo, where you reverse victim and offender. Where you're the bad guy, but you make the victim the bad guy, and you make yourself the victim. So, the victim stories are all very much in Tamas. Any kind of sinfulness, anytime where we try to win by breaking the rules, it's laziness, right? You don't want to do what's actually necessary to win, so you cheat. We think about the Kurus. The Kurus couldn't win the kingdom fairly. Right? Pandu was the king. His children would be the king. They couldn't get the kingdom fairly. I mean, of course, the Pandavas were willing to split the kingdom with them. But so they tried to do it by cheating. They had the whole dice game as cheating. Right? And then after the first dice game, we were seeing the insulting of Draupadi and the Arangetram. You know, I mean, what a terrible thing to do to try to win a kingdom. So after that, when by Draupadi's Shakti and Krishna's blessings, Dhritarashtra ended up restoring everything to the Pandavas, then the Kauravas again cheated. They did another dice game. Right? They were constantly cheating and constantly lying. And the Pandavas did their time of exile, and the Kurus said, no, you didn't. It wasn't really the time of exile. Right? Just constantly cheating and lying and violating Dharma. Trying to do an end run around these things. Do we see this also happen among our devotees? Yes. We see devotees trying to doing things by breaking the law, by stealing. In fact, that was institutionalized at one point, you know, stealing flowers out of people's yards to offer to the deities. Lying on book distribution to sell more books. I mean, even stealing on book distribution to sell more books and make sure you got your quota and make sure your temple won. And we see this, I'm sorry to say this, but it has to be said because it is within our own society. Winning philosophical arguments by cheating. Quoting some obscure shastra and then manipulating the Sanskrit into some, right? Just like we know there's Sanskrit words like niyamagraha that can have two opposite meanings. We have these kind of words in English too. Like the word moot has two opposite meanings, or to dust has two opposite meanings. There's a lot of fast has two opposite meanings. So we have a lot of words that can have two opposite meanings. So you can take the Sanskrit, you can translate it in a way that suits your particular stance. Well, let me quote from this obscure place and twist it this way. And then labeling your opponents as, well, these are the feminists, or these are these people, or these people, putting pejorative labels, working people up with fear tactics. Your whole culture will be ruined. Your children will all go to hell if you follow this. This is all tamas. And it comes from laziness. You're not willing to actually do what's required to win. We see this in modern society, like people, taking drugs, performance-enhancing drugs in athletics. There's a book I had to read for my doctoral program called The Cheating Culture. And I mean, it's a really good book. And it details all the ways in which people try to win in modern society by cheating. And it talks a lot about sports and talks a lot about academics. How many people cheat in academics? And now you have this chatbot, where you can have the computer write your paper for you. And there won't be any plagiarism in it. And it won't be obvious at all. It can be a beautiful paper and you'll get an A, but you did nothing and you learned nothing. And it is pervasive. And it's particularly, wasn't there some court case a year or so ago that some rich people had cheated to get their kids into college, right? And some of them had to even go to jail for it. So, even with people who are very rich and very intelligent and very influential, they still do this tamas thing to win. Whenever we try to psychologically manipulate other people in order to win, maybe subtly threatening them or flattering them or anything where we can't win by fair means. Does this make sense to everybody? Well, you know that if I employ fair means and if I work according to Dharma, I'm probably going to lose. And where one gets so attached to winning, where one says, I have to win at any cost, and therefore I will employ foul means. And my dear friends, this doesn't just apply to all the people sitting in federal prison. It applies also to us within our Hare Krishna movement. We do have people in our movement who do these things, and we may ourselves sometimes do these things, where our attachment to winning supersedes our Dharma. And of course, that kind of winning bites you in the end, doesn't it? right? This is what Krishna says, that Thomas, there's no happiness at any point. We may think we're very clever, that we were able to do a run around the rules in order to win, but it doesn't bite us. Another instance of this is Sahajiism. Sahajiism is trying to win by Thomas. You haven't actually had any higher realization. You're not willing to follow the principles of sadhana bhakti, and you just, put on ankle bells and dress yourself up in a sari and think that you become a gopi. This is also a kind of winning by Thomas. Just like you're just going to try to make an end run around everything, right? I ran into this recently where, there were some devotees who were actually Sanskrit scholars and actually trained in the culture who said this is the way it is, and somebody with no Sanskrit training and no training in the culture just used ad hominem and said, or these are all rascals and this is the real understanding. Cherry picking verses is another example of this trying to win by Thomas. I'm just going to pick the statements from Srila Prabhupada that support my point of view. And if you don't agree with me, I'm going to tell you that you're not loyal to Srila Prabhupada. That's a very common one. And you'll say, but Prabhupada said this in a particular context. You saying everything Prabhupada said isn't literally true in all contexts? Yeah, I am. Oh, and then just see what a terrible person you are. So this is all trying to win out of Thomas. Using power, again, against the rules. Restricting who can say anything and who can present and who can speak because you have power in a particular area. This is also winning according, what do they call the cancel culture? This is also winning by Thomas. I shut down the voices of the opposition, right? I put them in prison if I'm in Stalin and Hitler, I put them in prison, I put them in concentration camps, I killed them. But again, I also see this going on in our Hare Krishna movement, where people are not given a platform. People are not given a platform to write or to speak because, we want to make sure their voices are not heard. All right, how do we win in Rajas? Well, everybody's trying to be better than everybody, but what's the technique in Rajas? Working really hard. Now, in Rajas, it's the opposite of Thomas in that you really want to follow Dharma. People in Rajas, they want to follow Dharma. And they will work very, very hard. Extreme sacrifice. People in Thomas are really proud at how good they are at cheating and trickery. And people in Thomas are really proud of how much they're willing to sacrifice. And you can find, whenever a person wins through Rajas, they will always tell you the sacrifices they did to get there. It's one of the symptoms. And again, we see this, devotees talk a lot about their austerities. This is a real Rajas mood for winning. I mean, Jiva Goswami says that if you're intentionally inattentive in your chanting and other practices, you will start taking pride in your austerities and your external accomplishments. And whenever people talk about, I did this austerities, I slept in a Sankirtan van for 3 years out in the cold, and we took showers with a hose outside, and I gave my house over to the sannyasis to stay there, and I stayed in the dham just living under a tree, chanting 150 rounds a day. That's very Rajas. They're talking, this is my austerity, this is my sacrifice. And rigid adherence to dharmic rules. I follow the rules. Absolutely. To the letter. Right? Also, people in Rajas try to win by having a lot of followers. Like you were saying, getting other people to do something. In Thomas, you do that because you're lazy. Oh, will you do it for me? In Rajas, you do it, like somebody we all know who got up and said, storm the Capitol, all my followers. So, trying to build up something in your followers so they'll be victorious for you. Right? Or like Churchill with blood, sweat, and tears. The marathoning it. We're going to stay up all night. We're not going to eat. We're not going to sleep. We're going to wreck our health for the next 20 years. We're just going to get it done and we're going to win. Intensely painful practices often. And often Rajas winning is based on real attachment to family. We're going to do this for the family. We're going to do it for the nation. Right? This kind of sacrifice. With money also. I mean, this can also be in Thomas if the money is used to blackmail, to extort, to manipulate. But in Rajas, it's done honestly with money. You know, I'm going to earn a lot of money, and with my money, I'm going to win. As again, a very famous person we all know, with my money, I'm going to eradicate all disease. Right? We know this fellow. By my money, he was once asked, you know, why don't you go to church? And he said, I can do more good for the world with my money on a Sunday than I can by going to church. So that's also very Rajas. With my money, with my power, with my influence, with my followers, with my hard work, with my sacrifice, with my blood, sweat, and tears, I am going to win. But very much Dharma. But we're not going to violate Dharma, but we're going to work really, really, really hard. All right, what about sattva winning? How do people try to win in sattva? This is very interesting. Communication, all right, but there's a very funny thing about sattva. How do people define winning in sattva? Like in tamas, you define winning by being clever, and I'm a more clever cheater than the other side. In rajas, you define winning by being dedicated to sacrifice and dharma. In sattva, how do you define winning? Peacefulness, that you don't care about winning. Your winning is you don't care about winning. That's the winning in sattva. It's an inner winning. I may have lost externally, but internally I have won. Because internally I don't care if I win or not. I am above it. Yes. Humility, yes. That's a great way to win. You know, in tamas, you're winning by insulting others. In sattva, you win by not caring whether or not you're insulted. It's actually quite effective. If someone's arguing with you and you don't care, guess who wins? You do. Right? I can walk away from an argument and not care. I am the winner. I defeat my opponent by not engaging. I'm just like, I'm above all this. I'm not, right? Krishna describes this as the gotcha of sattva, that you're conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge, and you're like, and a sense of being above sinfulness, that you just don't care. Your winning is detachment. And in sattva, there's this unbreakable determination. In rajas, you only have determination if you think you can win. As soon as in rajas you don't think you can win, you just walk away from it. Like, people think determination and rajas are synonymous, but they're not. Determination, Krishna says, is only unbreakable in sattva. Because in sattva, you're determined whether you externally win or not. It's irrelevant. Your winning is your inner peacefulness, your inner detachment, your inner humility. And there's a pride about it. I'm not like these people. I'm not running around ambitious trying to do something in the world through my wealth and followers. You know, I don't really care. I'm above it all. I'm always happy. Right? There's a rigid adherence in sattva to the principles of dharma, not the letter of the law, but to the spirit of the law. That the principles of dharma are peacefulness and detachment and humility. And that walking away from a battle is actually a higher principle. In rajas, they're very attached to the letter of the law. You follow? Yes. So sattva is like, go ahead, take my money, take my reputation, insult me, burn down my house, kill my relatives. I'm above it. So I have won. Because you're not able to defeat me, because I will never acknowledge defeat or feel defeat. And therefore, I am always the winner no matter what happens. So that's a lot better than, I mean, Rajas is a lot better than Tamas because at least you're following Dharma. You're getting good karma. In Tamas, you're getting bad karma, your vikarma. In Rajas, you're getting good karma, your karma. And in Sattva, you're either getting good karma or you're kind of above karma. And the ultimate expression of Sattva, of course, is the Brahman. The ultimate Vishuddha Sattva of Sattva is the Brahman, where you're really above everything. You practically don't even exist anymore. And you're just above everything. And there's no question anymore of winning and losing. It's an ultimate winning by not caring about winning and losing. And it's very mysterious to those who are in Rajas and Tamas. They can't really figure out. They think the Sattva person is very foolish, that they don't care, which is why people don't understand that a determination for winning is much stronger in Sattva than in Rajas. Because it doesn't look like that. It looks like the person in Sattva just says, I'm not going to engage anymore. But their determination is unbreakable. Their inner determination is unbreakable. But they can't stay in Sattva. Yes, why? Because the modes are always vying for supremacy. So even someone in Sattva occasionally gets overcome by Rajas and Tamas. And we see this example in the scriptures. These great sages, these great yogis, they're doing great in Sattva, and something comes along, and poof, they're in Rajas. Or even Tamas. Sometimes it's just jingling jewelry. Right? But there is something above. Oh, and we see this also, by the way, in our Hare Krishna movement, don't we? We see the Rajas in our Hare Krishna movement, and we see people propounding Rajas as bhakti. See this a lot. Destroy your health, destroy your sadhana, work really hard to do this, to make money so we can do this big thing. And we see also an urge for sattva. You know, just go sit down and chant all day and never mind about the world and never mind about Mahaprabhu's mission and too much trouble and it's too much politics and just forget about the whole thing and just chill out and be peaceful. All right. Now, what about Vishuddha Sattva? What about above Sattva? What about Krishna? What about Krishna, who's here eager for victory? And Krishna's devotees are eager for victory. Now, here Sanatana Goswami and Jiva Goswami says, why should Krishna be eager for victory? He's always victorious, so this is just because he's acting like an ordinary human. But I'd like to suggest that Krishna's always eager for victory as part of his eternal Leela. He has also this mood. But he's such a sankalpa. Whatever he desires immediately happens. What is the question of victory or not victory for him? He's Atmarama, Atmakama, such a sankalpa. I mean, actually, even jivas who are at very high levels of sattva can be such a sankalpa, where whatever they want is immediately happens. Just Krishna desires something, it happens. How can anyone defeat him? Right? But above sattva is lila. It's playfulness. Sattva is just peacefulness. But above that is playfulness. And all of the rasas in bhakti involve some kind of playfulness. Even the anger rasa is very much involved here in this wrestling match. Right, Prabhupada says Arjuna couldn't fight without anger. How are you going to fight without anger? I think I might want to kill you, yes. I might shoot this arrow at Bhishma. But it's a playful anger. There's a playfulness. You know, we sit and play games with our family and we want to win. Otherwise, what's the point? If you're playing Scrabble with your family or chess or, right, don't you want to win? If you don't want to win, there's no point in the whole thing. You might as well just go home. You know, so someone in sattva will be, I'm not going to play chess with my friend. I'm just peaceful. But then there's what is even the Shantaras in bhakti.
Shantaras is very connected with ghastliness and winning over illusion. There's some element there, even in Shantaras, of this playfulness. So this is the way we want to win as members of the Hare Krishna movement, as play, as fun. My dear friends, if our winning is not fun, it's in one of the modes. If our winning is not fun, it's in one of the modes. If our winning is not fun, it's in one of the modes. For sure. It should be fun. It should be playful. A combination of really wanting to win and total detachment. Isn't that what playfulness is all about? Does it really matter who wins the Scrabble game when you're playing with your family? I mean, does it actually matter? Right? My family used to play Scrabble on the weekends. Like, was it really of momentous import if my mother won or I won? No. But we really cared about winning. Does this make sense to everybody? You really play your best and you really try to win and you desire to win. But it's all play. It's all fun. We really desire to distribute, 13,000 Bhagavad Gitas at Christmas time. And if we distribute 25,000, we have a party. And we really desire to build a big temple. We really desire to publish a book. And we throw ourselves into it with seemingly more intensity than those in Rajas, but with more detachment than those in Sattva. Because it's just play. It ultimately doesn't really matter, and it matters completely. It matters completely because we're doing it to please Krishna, and it doesn't really matter at all because it's just play. The cowherd boys are wrestling with Krishna. I was thinking, and I don't know if I should argue with Sanatana Goswami and Jiva Goswami, but is Krishna always victorious? He says Krishna is always victorious. I'm going to risk here committing a Maha Vaishnava Aparad and say, I don't know if Krishna is always victorious. Sometimes, thank you, Mother Krishna Priya, sometimes Krishna loses. Sometimes Radharani is victorious. Sometimes Lalita is victorious. Sometimes Mother Yasoda is victorious. She ties him up. He loses. We celebrate this for a whole month, how Krishna's the loser. We have a whole festival. God the loser. Right? He's playing with the cowherd boys. He loses. He has to carry the winners on his back. He's falling down at the feet of the gopis. I'm sorry, I offended you. He's the loser. I mean, if you never lose, there's no fun in play, right? Right? It's boring. I know I'm always going to win. I hear there's also talk of having an equal opponent. Why do they want an equal opponent? If you have an opponent who's lesser than you, you know you're going to win, there's no fun anymore. Right? It has to be something where there's a real challenge. So Krishna feels this way. And that's actually the way that he operates. So that's how we should operate also. And it will look to the world, oh, the devotees are running around sacrificing like someone in Rajas. And certainly we shouldn't use Thomas. That's just, please don't use Thomas, like, ever. But it may look like Rajas, but it's not Rajas. Don't pull from Rajas. Don't think, in order to do this from Krishna, I have to pull from Rajas. Don't pull from Rajas. It'll kill you. Or one may think, in order to do this for Krishna, I have to pull from Sattva. Don't pull from Sattva. They're ego traps. They're all ego traps. And certainly don't think, in order to do this for Krishna, I have to pull from Tamas. Winning for Krishna is so important, I got to pull from Tamas. They're ego traps. Lord Kapila says we can do bhakti in Tamas, Rajas, or Sattva. But we're not supposed to do bhakti in Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. First of all, if we do bhakti in Tamas, it gives religion a bad name all over the world. Like Rupa Goswami says, if you do things not according to Shastra, it causes a disturbance. It's simply disturbance in society. And if we're supposedly in Krishna consciousness in Rajas, best we're going to get is a nice human birth. If we're supposedly in Krishna consciousness and sattva, then we can get a demigod birth. My dear friends, we've all done that already. Absolutely guarantee you, we've all done that. We've all been demigods. For sure. That's not what we want. We want to join Krishna's Leela. So we want to win. We want to win as bhaktas. We want to win as bhaktas. And that's kind of the whole Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? Go win as a bhakta. Go out and win, Arjuna, but do it as a bhakta. Do it with the detachment of a yogi and seemingly the energy of a materialist, apparently, externally, but do it as a bhakta, as my servant. As Leela, full of rasa. And he may look like an ordinary warrior and householder of the world, working for country and working for family. That always bothered me about those Mahabharata movies. They were always talking about Desh Prem. Drove me crazy. You know, love for country. No, it was love for Krishna. Do what he's saying with love for Krishna. And then we should experience life as playful. If we're experiencing life as nasty, then it's tamas. If we're experiencing life as intense sacrifice, pain, then we're in rajas. And if we're experiencing life as just peace, then it's sattva. But if we're experiencing life as playful, joyful. So this is our challenge to look. We shouldn't think that just because I'm an official card-carrying member. I asked somebody else the other day. Somebody wrote something controversial, and some other part of ISKCON said that this person should be thrown out as a member of ISKCON. And I said, what does that mean anyway, to be a member of ISKCON? So he sent me to a site where you can sign up as an official member, and then you get the ISKCON Connection newsletter in your email inbox. So I don't know. I signed up, so I'm now a member. Finally, took me a long time. So it's not just that you sign up for the ISKCON Connection newsletter, or you live in the ashram, or even you go through some yagyas and get a name and get some mantras. But if we really want to be a member, then we need to win in bhakti. This is the question to ask ourselves, and to be careful when Thomas and Roger and Sattva are calling us. Use me to win. Now we look at them and we say, no, thank you. No, thank you. You are an ego trap. You are something that will pull me away from what I really want. So questions, comments, additions, subtractions. If you're bhakti, you're playful. You might be playful just because you're 2 years old. That's something else. You might be playful because you're a kitten. But certainly the primary mood in bhakti is Leela. Now, there's all of the rasas. There's anger, there's fear. Because if you're playfully angry, it's also joyful and ecstatic. You don't feel polluted. When you're angry in rajas and tamas, you can sometimes even be angry in sattva, though it's rarer. You feel polluted. Yes. Yeah, Thomas can also be I win by being the victim. I can win by being the victim. Which is different from sattva, which is I win by being blissfully detached. I win by being above it. But in tamas is I win by I'm become right because I'm the victim. Yeah, it's very self-abnegation. I win by hating myself. I think everybody, so I'm going to hate myself and I'm going to win that way, yes.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvanta Marabindanalayatatam Bhagavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarakam Kandar Ako Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Anganiyasa Sakalen Priya Pritimanti Vasyanti Vikayanti Chirakanti Ananda Maya Sadhu Jala Vikasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam
Tamaham Bhajami Govindam. Namaham Vishnu Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Jivanantaga Samini Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurvani Pacha Shunyagadev Satyadev Saraswati Devitsa Dunya Deva Satyade Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Ramune Jananda Sri Advaita Gachan Siva Sade Gorbatendai. It's not daytime, Ramune John, Gachan Siva Sade Gorbatendai. I say it's not done alone. Ramune John, Shiva Sade, it's not Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Rama, Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Rama Hare Hare. Shri Radhe Jai Om Shnupad Paramahamsa. Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pradipanam Gunamita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Paramidayate Shri Krishna Nam Namakam Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Etadvishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dordaiva Midvishami Hadjanina Nuraga Trinada Pisa Nichena Tarora Pisa Hishuna Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhakti Hitrahi Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Vavam Buddha Kripayata Vapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadhushim Pachintaya Nayanam Galashudaraya Varanam Gadgadaridaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanamagrahane Vavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahiname Ashlishya Padamritam Panastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatata Vavindato Lampato Mat Prananatastu Sevanapara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of a benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It's in the ocean of transcendental bliss, and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. They're not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy name, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Oh, my Lord, well, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause of devotional service, birth after birth. Oh, son of Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen to the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is always free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.